At exactly 9 minutes past midnight, New York City released a tired breath into the cold air. It was 1934, and the city carried the weight of the Great Depression in every brick, every shadow, every exhausted face moving through the night. Rain fell slowly but relentlessly, soaking wool coats, darkening sidewalks, filling the seams between cobblestones with black water that reflected flickering street lamps and broken neon signs. This was not a city at rest. It was a city waiting. In a narrow apartment above a permanently closed bakery on the Lower East Side, Vincent Marlowe stood alone. The building itself seemed to lean forward with age, its walls scarred by decades of neglect, dampness, and cigarette smoke. The room was small, almost claustrophobic, furnished with only the essentials. A narrow bed untouched by sleep, a single wooden chair, and a scarred table placed beneath a bare-hanging bulb that swayed almost imperceptibly. Shadows moved slowly across the walls, as if the room itself was breathing. On the table lay a revolver. It was not new. The metal was worn smooth where hands had gripped it too many times. Its weight was familiar, comforting in a way only certainty can be. Beside it rested a box of ammunition, lighter than it should have been. Vincent stared at them for a long moment, unmoving, listening to the rain tapping against the window like a quiet countdown. He began to load the revolver. One round at a time. Each bullet slid into place with a soft metallic click that echoed far louder than it should have in silence. Vincent did not rush. He never rushed. Preparation was the only thing that ever separated survival from a body on the pavement. His hands were steady, practiced, betraying none of the tension tightening his chest. Vincent Marlowe was 34 years old. He had been born into the city and shaped by it long before he understood what it demanded in return. He had grown up among brick alleys and fire escapes, learning early that hesitation invited punishment. His face bore no dramatic scars, but something harder lived in his expression, a constant awareness, eyes that never fully relaxed, a jaw that stayed clenched even in moments of quiet. He had lived long enough to understand that fear was not weakness. It was information. He closed the cylinder, checked the weight of the revolver once more, then slid it inside his coat. Heavy wool. Dark. Unremarkable. The kind of coat designed not to be remembered. He pulled on his hat, lowering it until the brim shadowed his eyes, and stepped toward the window. Outside, the street glistened under weak lamps. Rain blurred the world into streaks of grey. A streetcar passed several blocks away, sparks briefly lighting the overhead wires before darkness swallowed them again. Pedestrians hurried along sidewalks, shoulders hunched, collars raised, unaware that violence was already moving among them. Parked neatly near the curb waited his car. A pre-war automobile from the early 1930s. Rounded fenders. Narrow tires. A front-mounted external spare wheel bolted proudly like a badge of endurance. The paint caught the light despite the rain, and the car's silhouette stood out sharply against the dark street. It was old, but dependable. Like Vincent, it had survived things newer machines would not. He turned away from the window, extinguished the light, and stepped into the stairwell. Each step downward echoed softly, swallowed by the building's age. Outside, he unlocked the car, slid into the driver's seat, and closed the door with a muted thud. The leather creaked beneath him. He adjusted the mirror, started the engine, and listened as it settled into a steady, reassuring rhythm. Then he pulled away from the curb. The city opened itself reluctantly as he drove. Streets narrowed, buildings pressed closer, rain softened edges and distorted reflections. His destination was the First National Bank on Fifth Avenue. The plan was clean. Simple. In through a side entrance. Control the room. Reach the vault. Leave within minutes. Vincent had gone over it countless times, rehearsing every movement, every possible deviation. He believed in control. He parked near the bank and cut the engine. For a moment, he sat still, breathing slowly, grounding himself. The rain continued. Somewhere far away, a siren wailed, unrelated, distant, meaningless. He stepped out of the car and moved toward the entrance. Inside, everything happened too fast. The door opened. The revolver appeared. Fear filled the room before a word was spoken. Clerks froze mid-motion. Customers stared, eyes wide, minds refusing to accept reality. Vincent spoke calmly, evenly, his voice carrying authority sharpened by experience. For a brief, fragile moment, control seemed possible. Then someone screamed. The sound tore through the room like glass shattering. Vincent turned instinctively. A movement. A mistake. The first gunshot cracked through the air, deafening in the enclosed space. Panic erupted instantly. People ran, stumbled, fell. Another shot followed. The alarm began to scream. Vincent knew it was over. He turned and ran. He burst back onto the street as rain hammered down harder now, soaking his face, blurring his vision. He dove into the car, engine roaring as tires fought for traction on slick stone. Sirens answered almost immediately, rising in number and volume, cutting through the night like hunting calls. Red and blue lights flooded the streets. Vincent accelerated, gripping the wheel tightly. The car slid through intersections, narrowly missing civilians frozen in fear. Some ran without direction. Others stood motionless, unable to move. The city fractured into chaos around him. Police vehicles closed in. Commands were shouted. Gunfire erupted. Bullets struck asphalt, sparked off metal, shattered windows. Vincent fired back sparingly, controlled, not out of rage but necessity. Rain turned the streets into mirrors of confusion. He turned sharply into side streets, navigating by memory alone. The vintage car strained but obeyed, its engine roaring, its body absorbing punishment. Sparks flew as bullets struck the fenders. Smoke began to rise. Barricades appeared where none should have been. Spotlights cut through the rain. The advantage slipped away. The city adapted. A bullet shattered the side window. Glass exploded inward. Pain flared in Vincent's arm, sharp and immediate. He ignored it. Survival demanded focus. He turned into a narrow alley, scraping past brick walls, crates collapsing behind him. Gunfire followed. The alley opened into a small courtyard. Enclosed. Silent. Final. Vincent stopped the car. Rain fell softly now. Steam rose from the engine. Sirens approached but slowed. Officers emerged carefully, weapons raised. Vincent stepped out, revolver in hand, breathing heavy, blood soaking into his coat. He looked around. No escape. The city had closed its fist. He raised the revolver slightly, then lowered it. He understood. This was the end. No legend. No escape. Just consequence. A single shot broke the night. Vincent Marlowe collapsed onto the wet stone. The revolver slipped from his fingers. Blood spread across the cobblestones, mixing with rainwater. His eyes stared upward, reflecting broken streetlight. The officers lowered their weapons. Sirens faded. The rain continued. The vintage car stood nearby, silent, scarred, abandoned, a witness to a life that ended exactly where it always was going to end. New York moved on. It always did. Another night swallowed. Another man erased. And somewhere, a clock kept ticking, indifferent to it all.